If you need any Xbox or PlayStation codes or anything gaming related, check the referral links down in the description. They'll take you to g2a.com. They already have a discount on most of their goods already, and with the code CHES at checkout, you can get yourself an extra 3% off as well.
Hey guys, how's it going? Chez back again, and welcome to episode number 134 of the Career Mode Road to Glory here on FIFA 15. We start with an away game in the Capital One Cup. We've not played Scunthorpe for years. It's been a while since we were down in Leagues 1 and 2. I'm not too sure where they reside right now. They were in League 2, but whether they've gotten themselves promoted or maybe they've gone up and gone back down again by the time that we've reached this 6th season here in this series. Delighted that actually that things have gone so well so far in this particular series, but we do face familiar, although old familiar opposition. Obviously, with it being the Capital One Cup and against a side that isn't necessarily as competent an opposition as perhaps we faced earlier on in this particular season or in the past 2 seasons in the Barclays Premier League, I'm starting a rotation side. Obviously, there's still enough players in there of quality to be able to deal with the threat that Scunthorpe face, although they did come close to taking the lead after just 6 minutes. Kind of a flash effort there from one of their midfielders. Caused the goalkeeper some problems. It looked as if it was going to head towards that top corner, but then unfortunately for him, just kind of bent over the top of the bar. But they actually started very, very strongly here, Scunthorpe. As you can see, having a second attempt here, or they will eventually build a second attempt before we're able to even have a chance of our own at the other end. They started very, very strongly. Clearly they wanted to get themselves in front early on so that they could peg back and sit back and just go all defensive until the end of the game and try and squeak a 1-0 victory. Well, if they wanted to squeak a 1-0 victory, they got themselves off to a great start because they've got the 1-0 lead. Really good header at the back post. Obviously starting a young 64 rated goalkeeper in this one. Not too sure whether that was a good decision at this point in the game or whether it was actually going to cause me too many problems and we actually might find ourselves losing against Scunthorpe. But we came close at the other end to getting ourselves an equaliser there, but a good save by their goalkeeper stopped us from doing so. And then they actually scored a second here, but Billy Key was offside. The chance for him to score his and their second of the game, but sadly for him, wrong side of the defensive line. So we came back up the other end, Aguadar into Adarabioyo, as I've been told that it's actually pronounced, or I struggled to pronounce Adarabioyo in full flow of commentary. It's much easier to say Adarabio, but it is actually Adarabioyo. So I will try and pronounce it correctly between now and the end of the series. But he actually came close there, the man himself, trying to put the ball into the back of the net to get us an equaliser just before half-time, although their goalkeeper had other ideas. So we came forward at the beginning of the second half, trying to do exactly the same, and this time get it past the goalkeeper. Jenkins Chikowi does really nicely to check back there. Going to stand it up into the box. Georgiev underneath it. Keeper probably should have done better with that one, but it loops over the top of him into the back of the net, and we do have our equaliser eventually. But Scunthorpe were going to try and almost continue as they started in the first half, but we picked it off really nicely there in the middle with Aguadar, and then actually Fabian Caceres steals it off their defender. Georgiev isn't the fastest, or at least his acceleration isn't the best, but he does actually have sprint speed of 90 plus, so once he gets going, he's pretty uncatchable, and he wasn't catchable there as they raced away, and with his weaker right foot, smashes it across the goalkeeper into the bottom corner. His time at the club is perhaps on the clock. We're not really too sure whether he wants to stay or whether he's going to stay. We're not sure whether we can actually get him to sign a new contract and tie him down for another couple of seasons before sending him on if he continues to grow a little bit more, because he has grown a little bit since we brought him in, or since the beginning of this season, as you'll see at the end when we have a squad report. He's actually grown already this year, so he's definitely the third best striker at the club, with Takalo Ranti and now Callum Wilson as well, so I'm perhaps wanting to keep hold of him for a little bit longer until he perhaps grows a little bit more, and then we can sell him for more so we can bring in a better replacement. I'm still really, really unsure. You can probably tell from the fact that I've waffled on for about 2 minutes just about his contract, but we're starting a much stronger side here at home, against Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, though, they are one of the better sides in the division. They've got Steve Mandanda in goal with a pretty recognisable Spurs side other than that, though, with DeAndre Yedlin at right back, though, rather than Kyle Walker, who's on the bench. They've also got one new signing that I can remember on the bench for them in Yannick Sagbo, but I don't think there's anybody else on their bench that is unrecognisable as a Spurs squad member. But we had the first chance, but it wasn't really too much of a problem for Steve Mandanda, to be completely honest. Quite comfortable save, and we aren't able to get ourselves in front. I was kind of hoping to do here what clearly Scunthorpe's aim was to do to me. Get the 1-0 lead and then just kind of sit back, soak up the pressure and try and get all 3 points. Unfortunately though, we gave away a penalty just before half-time, and it wasn't really too arguable either. Paulinho tried to cut inside, and Polenz, I think it was Polenz, I'm not sure actually who it was that gave the penalty away, but rather than follow the track of the ball, he just clearly obstructed the man, just stood right in front of him. Paulinho bounced off him, went down. So penalty, Soldado steps up and I dive out of the way of it. I was so annoyed. I dived late as well, so I could have gotten a big curly toe to it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything of the sort though, and we found ourselves going 1-0 down. So into the second half, great block by Eric Dyer. They scramble it away, DeAndre Yedlin, but only as far as Nicholas Sporler. He's going to stand it up into the box. There's Georgiev again looking for his third goal of the episode, but unfortunately not able to get one, and it's another tame save for Steve Mandanda. So they brought on Yannick Sagbo, they took off Soldado. I wasn't really too fussed about that particular change, so I made a couple of changes of my own, bringing on Callum Wilson and Nzuzi Toko, both of which are extremely rapid, two very, very fast players. So I was hoping that we'd be able to try and get in behind them, although they do obviously have the pace of DeAndre Yedlin at right back, so I'd perhaps have to try and focus my efforts down their left-hand side and down my right-hand side. But then the man that I didn't really, like I said, wasn't really too fussed about when Yannick Sagbo came on for Roberto Soldado, he went and did that. Not exactly the sort of strike you would expect from Yannick Sagbo. I don't know about you, but I've never seen him do this for Hull, to be completely honest. If he was able to do that for Hull in real life this season, they probably wouldn't have been relegated. A ridiculously good strike. Goalkeeper just got completely outdone by the curve of the ball. You see from this angle, it starts, or it bends well away from goal and just whips in and then down and under the bar. You can't blame the goalkeeper for that one. Just a tremendous strike from Yannick Sagbo. Unexpected, but we have to deal with it. So now the gap is 2 goals, trying to get at least one back here through Jenkins Chikowi. If he can cut inside, which he can, finds Janas Geis as well, but Mandanda makes a great reaction save. Keep the score at 2-0, and unfortunately, it remained that way. So defeat against Tottenham at home. A penalty that was a penalty, but I was still annoyed about it, and then just a sheer world-class goal from a player that, in all honesty, probably isn't world-class, but everybody is allowed to score one absolute worldie in their career, aren't they? Especially from Tottenham, because Danny Rose scored one on his debut, didn't he, against Arsenal? So it does happen from time to time. Unfortunately, it happened against us. But you can see a few players are starting to grow. Juan Andres Aquada is still growing very nicely as well. Nicholas Sporler is up one, and now apparently happy. His morale is happy, so he's going to stay at the club. He's happy to stay at the club, and hopefully he can continue to grow. So Georgiev is up from 73 to 75 now, so like I say, he's continuing to grow. Really don't know what to do with him. Weirdly, Takelo Ranti's physical stats started to drop off slightly, so perhaps this could be his last season at the club, and we may sell him on, perhaps even in January, for a large fee if we possibly can, to try and bring in a younger replacement. Callum Wilson not growing just of yet, but hopefully he will start to once he gets some more first team football. Fabian Casada is still unhappy, although I can kind of understand that because I'm not really playing him that much at the minute. But once the European games start, he's going to get a lot of first team football, and we will have our first foray into European football in the next episode. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Hopefully the squad can continue to grow in the manner that they have done so far, but we are going to need to improve our results. There's our European group, Genoa City Nacional, which I believe is the side from Madeira, which is where obviously Cristiano Ronaldo started his career. And then the other side in the group is Stade Reims, or Reims. I'm not really too sure how to pronounce that. You will have to let me know in the comments, or I'll have to go on my pronunciation website to make sure that I can properly pronounce that, considering we're going to be playing them twice and probably referring to them numerous times over the next few episodes. But this is the lowest we've ever been in the Barclays Premier League since we got promoted 3 years ago. 17th in the league after 4 games, no victories, 2 draws, 2 defeats. We need to improve. This is probably the best squad that we've had since we've been here, so I'm a bit perplexed as to why we've started so poorly. Hopefully we can turn things around sooner rather than later, especially considering our fixture list is going to be very congested over the next few months with the Europa League group stage. So it's all to play for and all to do, to be completely honest, between now and Christmas, before we get to the January window, where we can think about maybe asking the board for some money again if they'll give us 2 financial inputs in the same season. I'm not sure whether they'll actually do that or not, but I'll try my best. And obviously, if we can't, then we may have to sell on a couple of other players. There are a couple of players we wanted to sell on and weren't able to in this window, so we'll have to wait and see. But hopefully, we'll be in a better position by January, so it won't matter too much. But right now, we sit 17th. But European football coming up in the next episode. But if you enjoyed this one, then of course, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I will be streaming over on twitch.tv/Chesnoy Gaming in around about half an hour's time. We'll be starting a brand new Football Manager save. So if you want to help me, A, pick the side that we're going to play with, and B, then help me find some new signings for the side that you've helped me pick, then feel free to follow the link in the description to my Twitch, and you can help me do so over there. Of course, follow me on Twitter as well, and all my social media links will be down below, as well as links to G2A, my sponsor, if you want to check them out for any Xbox or PlayStation codes. But that'll be all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.